WrestleMania IV. This is for all the people who have been watching and saying, you know, I really like WrestleMania, but not enough Donald Trump.
You're watching So Awkward. This is Freddy Krueger saying hi.
We're at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. That's right, Donald Trump, who might be our country's next president, fingers crossed, finally makes his WrestleMania debut. It's a safe bet we'll never see Hillary Clinton at any WrestleManias. He doesn't really have an active role, so if you really want to see him do a promo or get involved in the ring, you have to wait for a later WrestleMania for that. Yeah, we'll get there. But he's there, he's in the front row for the whole thing, sitting with whatever immigrant was his wife at the time. I don't remember. It's a good thing they never built a wall around Eastern Europe, or Donald Trump would have had no love life. Hey wait, they did build a wall around Eastern Europe. Does anybody remember East Germany? Does anybody remember the Cold War? 1988. I can tell you there was nobody in attendance or viewing this event that ever thought anybody involved would be running for president 30 years later. And if they did, they would have thought it was slick. Anyway, the festivities kick off with America the Beautiful by Gladys Knight, and it's pretty great. And our commentary team is, once again, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body. And I wish they could just do commentary for every WrestleMania until the end of time. They're also joined here and there by Bob Uecker, who pops in and out, and he's also pretty great. He's, I guess, their biggest celebrity this time around. They've really pared down the celebrity appearances. So the thing that makes WrestleMania IV stand out, in a good way and a bad way, is that it's a tournament for the World Heavyweight title. So between WrestleMania 3 and 4, there was a match between Hogan and Andre the Giant where there was some shenanigans. I don't remember all the specifics. $1 Million Man paid a referee to get plastic surgery to look like another referee, even though they were actually just legit twins, Dave and Earl Hebner, who were both actual wrestling referees. So WWF president at the time, Jack Tunney, declared the title was vacant and that WrestleMania IV was going to be a tournament to see who would be the new champion. As a kid, I was so excited. It was weird that Hogan wasn't the champion anymore, because he had been the champion for years, the past, 4 or 5 years. Nowadays, it's really rare for somebody to hold the title a year. Even a few months is kind of a long reign at this point, but Hogan had it for most of my childhood. So to go into a WrestleMania where Hogan wasn't the champion was just weird. But 30 years later, the fact that it is a tournament makes it self-contained, so it was really fun to watch, and you don't really need all the backstory. It's kind of just a self-contained event that holds up, because also the matches, while there aren't any matches that really are amazing, most of them are pretty solid and pretty fun. They start things off with a battle royal, and it's a pretty good one. It's really fun. It's a pretty good cast of characters. I wrote down a couple notables. The Hart Foundation, JYD, Harley Race, Hillbilly Jim, George the Animal Steele. That's a pretty good lineup. The last three in the ring are JYD, Bad News Brown, and the Hitman. And of course, this is back when the Hitman was evil. So he teamed up with Bad News to eliminate JYD. And then they shake hands, and you think they're gonna split the prize money when there's also a giant trophy. But then Bad News betrays Hitman, and he kicks him and he throws him out of the ring, and that pisses off the Hitman, who comes back in and he beats up Bad News and he smashes the trophy. And as a kid, I remember this was just the most exciting thing ever. Even then, I loved the Hart Foundation, especially Bret Hart. He's been a lifelong favorite of mine, and this was the start of his turn to a good guy. And it was really funny and a good way to do it. Yeah, Bret Hart is too good to be in the first match, which is also a battle royal, but it was a great moment, and he got his moment to shine, and it's It's a really memorable WrestleMania moment. It's a lot of fun. It's funny. After that, they start the first round of the tournament, and they bring out Robin Leach to read the rules. Does anybody remember Robin Leach, host of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? First match of round one was Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Ted DiBiase. I'm not going to go into detail about these matches, just because none of them really stand out as that great, and the matches themselves are all just pieces of a whole. So each match doesn't have as much relevance as just the entire story that's being told. But this match is pretty good. I love Ted DiBiase. He's my pick for the best wrestling villain of all time. There's nobody as evil as him, in my opinion, or as much fun to hate. Just a great heel. This was a pretty good one. Ted DiBiase wins and moves on to the next round. Next match is Dino Bravo versus Don Morocco. I wrote down on my notes, Botch City. This wasn't a great match. Some botches here and there, and just kind of boring. Don Morocco won from a disqualification. He moves on. Next up is one of the best matches of the night. Greg the Hammer Valentine versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. How could that be bad? Enough said. Two of my all-time favorite wrestlers having a pretty solid old school wrestling match. This one was good. This one was really good. Greg the Hammer Valentine moves on. I think he cheated. Then we have Butch Reed versus the Macho Man Randy Savage. Again, another solid match. Two really good wrestlers. Randy Savage is victorious. Next up is Bam Bam Bigelow versus One Man Gang. This one was also pretty good. Two of the best big guys in wrestling history, in my opinion. Bam Bam, one of my all-time favorites. He's probably the best big guy. He's not the biggest big guy, but he does all the flippy stuff, which is fun. You don't see too many big guys who can do a moonsault, like a backflip off the top rope, or cartwheels. But both of these two were always fun. This was a pretty good match. One Man Gang wins via countout. The last match of round one was Ravishing Rick Rude versus Jake the Snake Roberts, which sounds like it should be amazing. These are two of the best wrestlers of all time. And it was pretty good. It just went on a little too long. At one point, the crowd started chanting, boring. Boring. It was a little bit boring. There was a lot of headlocks and old school moves. It did go on a little too long. In fact, the judges thought it went on too long too, because it was declared a draw because it went over the time limit, which is too bad. Neither of these two moved on. But then we had a match that wasn't part of the tournament. It was Hercules versus the Ultimate Warrior. This was exactly the match you'd expect from both of these two. Neither of them are that good at wrestling, but they're both big, imposing, physical specimens. Which is to say, they probably did a lot of steroids. This was the 80s. This was the golden age, so to speak, of wrestlers doing steroids. This one was okay. It was fine. It was not great. But as a kid, I probably loved this match because I loved the Ultimate Warrior. And I liked Hercules a lot too. The first match of round two was Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Both of whom received a bye, putting them directly into round two because they were both the two previous title holders. I guess that makes them the number one contenders. Anyway, this match wasn't quite up there with the main event from WrestleMania III. It wasn't as exciting. It was kind of boring. It wasn't a great match. It ended with a double disqualification. So neither of them move on, and they're both out of the tournament. Hogan will not be champion. Next up is Ted DiBiase versus Don Morocco. This one was okay. I don't remember it, but Ted DiBiase won. Next we have Greg the Hammer Valentine versus Randy the Macho Man Savage, and it's every bit as good as it sounds. Two of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Solid match. Really fun. Really good. I like this one. Macho Man is victorious. That's the end of round two, and then the next match is for the Intercontinental title. It's defending champion Honky Tonk Man versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He's officially a barber at this point. This one was okay. I don't know. I really like Honky Tonk Man. I have fond memories of Brutus, but it wasn't a great match. It was okay. Next up is a tag team match. It's the Islanders with Bobby the Brain Heenan versus the British Bulldogs with Coco Beware. This was an interesting match because you have 5 great wrestlers. The British Bulldogs, Coco Beware, and the Islanders. Then they throw in Bobby the Brain Heenan, who's best known as a manager. But this one, he's wearing like one of those suits that people who train dogs wear, so if they get bitten by the dog, they don't get hurt, because the British Bulldogs and Bulldog always tries to bite Bobby Heenan. This one was a lot of fun. Not your typical wrestling match, but Bobby Heenan kind of stole the show just because he's a star. He always steals the show. Then the tournament continues with One Man Gang versus Macho Man. Again, an okay match. These are both 2 really good, fun wrestlers. I don't remember it, but I know that Macho Man is victorious. So that means he's going to go to the main event to fight Ted DiBiase, who moved ahead because of the double disqualification of Hogan and Andre the Giant, I believe. But before that, we have the tag team title match, Demolition versus Strikeforce. This was a pretty good match. 2 really good old school teams, 2 of my favorites when I was a kid. Demolition, of course, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I remember as a kid thinking they were so scary and intimidating and just so tough looking. But as an adult, I realized they're just 2 fat, bare, gay guys in S&M costumes, right? They're not intimidating. They're weird and creepy. I don't know. I don't mean that in a homophobic way. I mean that in a they're weird and creepy way. Like, I don't care what you do at home in the comfort of your bedroom. If you're 2 consenting adults, wear whatever you want. But these guys are weird. Come on. But anyway, great wrestlers, and this was a pretty good match. And then finally, we have the main event of WrestleMania, of the tournament. They bring back Robin Leach to announce Bob Uecker. I believe he's the guest ring announcer. Brings out Vanna White as the guest timekeeper. I believe she rings the bell. Vanna White, remember Vanna White? I had forgotten about her. Gorgeous. Quite possibly the most beautiful woman who's ever lived. I'd like to buy a T and an A. You don't actually buy a T. You buy whatever. And of course the match is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, versus Macho Man Randy Savage. This is a pretty great match for the most part. 2 great technical wrestlers. I love both of these guys, 2 of my favorites. I didn't like the finish. In Ted DiBiase's corner was Andre the Giant, who kept interfering, which is great. So Miss Elizabeth, who always escorts the Macho Man to the ring, runs into the back and brings out Hulk Hogan, much to a great roar from the crowd. So he was there to keep Andre in line, but then he ended up, the referee was distracted, so at one point Hogan came in and hit Ted DiBiase with a chair from behind, knocking him out so Randy Savage could pin him and become the new champion. Very happy to see Randy Savage win, obviously. He was the fan favorite. But I don't know why they couldn't have given him a clean win without interference from Hogan. Why couldn't they let Randy Savage win cleanly? Make him look strong. Make him look like a champion. Why did they... I mean, I know why they did it. Probably Hogan insisted on it, or they probably just needed Hogan to be in there, because Hogan is Hogan. He's still bigger than life. But, so it would have been, I think it just would have, it keeps it from being a 5-star match for me. It's just like a 3.5 star match. Just because the finish, I didn't like the finish. I still don't like it. I still just let Randy have his win. Let Randy have his moment. But Randy Savage, our new champion, which was crazy. It was crazy at the time. Conflicted, didn't know how to feel. Obviously, and I'm speaking for the entire world, we were sad that Hogan was no longer the champion. But it still felt right that Randy Savage was the new champion. It clicked. I still remember watching it and just being overjoyed at the outcome. He was no Hogan. Nobody will ever be Hogan. There will never be another Hogan. At this point, not even Hogan is Hogan. But Randy Savage comes close as one of the greatest champions of all time. having Randy win and become the new champion was a great way to end WrestleMania IV. I just wish the match had been a little cleaner with the ending and given him a victory fitting of a champion. But all in all, WrestleMania IV was pretty decent. It's not going to be on my list of the greatest WrestleManias, but I do have fond, nostalgic memories of it, especially because of the crowning of the new champion. That was exciting and emotional, and just changed my world. It did. So yeah, WrestleMania 4, I give it a thumbs up. I say check it out, but don't go out of your way or anything. Just if you're home alone and have nothing to do. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Comment down below with your thoughts. Did you watch it? How did you feel when Randy Savage was crowned champion? Or were you rooting for somebody else? Maybe you were rooting for Dino Bravo. Nobody was. Anyway, guys, see you next Wednesday. Thanks for watching.
Thank God Donald Trump's a Hulkamaniac. He'll know enough to let go of his materialistic possessions, hang on to the wife and kids, dog paddle with his life all the way to safety. But Donald, if something happens, you run out of gas, and all those little Hulkamaniacs run out of gas, just hang on to the largest back in the world, and I'll dog paddle us, backstroke all of us to safety.
Oh, and thank you, Hulk Hogan. Let's get back to action.